So I'll go ahead and just get started and share my screen with you all so you can follow along. Just very informal presentation we like to do here and give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you have as well. So we're going to be talking about 5 website mistakes and how to fix them. If you haven't met me before, my name's Tara Clays and I own Design TLC. We're a WordPress agency specializing in websites for small schools and nonprofits. I've been doing this for over 10 years, but I have a background going back over 25 years, a marketing background going back that far. I spent some time raising my kids and running my own business, graphic design business, and then have transitioned to websites, which I love. And then in the past couple of years have really niched down in working with schools and nonprofits because I am passionate about the types of organizations that you all work in, and that helps me do a better job and really understand what your challenges are and how to best communicate to your prospective and current families.
Yes.
So the first type of issue that we see, the most common issue, is images. And you probably see this when you are working on your own website, that choosing images, editing images, putting them on your website, it can be time consuming, it can be frustrating, it can be tricky. I know with masks too, the subject matter of images can be hard as well. So we understand this, and we want to make sure that you're paying attention to a few different things about images though. And the first thing is too large. If you're taking an image from your phone and you're simply adding it to your website, you're probably making a big mistake. And that is that you're going to slow down the load speed of your page, which affects your user experience. It also affects how Google decides to rank you in SEO. And yes, Sue, I will share the slide deck. I'll send an email out afterwards with that. So what you can do to avoid this problem is use a tool like TinyPNG, which is a website that you can go to. You can just upload your raw image and it will compress it for you. So it will make it smaller. You can also use Canva or Photoshop to make your images smaller, to crop them. First of all, a lot of times the image that you take may have a lot of space around it that's not necessary, and you want to zoom in on one section. So cropping is very important as well. So you really want to spend a few minutes, and the more you work with Photoshop and tools like that, the quicker it gets to go in and crop the images. You may have some specific image sizes that you need to use on your website. When we build websites for schools, we give guidance on what size the images should be, let's say for a staff or a faculty picture. So you're not putting a square picture of this teacher and a rectangular picture of the other teacher. So there's some uniformity there as well. And then again, optimizing using a tool like TinyPNG. So that's the first mistake that we see related to images. The second thing is that, especially if you are uploading from your phone, the title of the picture is something like IMG_45293, which may not matter at the time because you know that you're uploading it. But if you're going to search for the picture of John Smith playing on the soccer field, it's not going to help you that you have that very nebulous title. It's also not going to help Google when they see that title. So there is code that's attached. There's meta descriptions that are added to your images when you put them on your site. And that's what Google reads, because Google doesn't have eyes. Bots don't have eyes. People who use screen readers who have vision impairments can't see the image. So the other thing that you need to add is alt text. So there are 2 pieces of information about your image that are important. The first is the title, and that's your opportunity to name it before you upload it to your site. Once you've uploaded it, if you're in WordPress or Weebly or anywhere, there should be an opportunity where you can add what's called alt text. And that is important because that is what Google and what screen readers use to identify and describe what's in the image. So your picture might be a picture of John Smith teaching your teacher named John Smith teaching his classroom. The title of your image could be John Smith, but your alt text might be teacher in classroom at private school in Northern Indiana or Indianapolis or whatever. It's an opportunity there to put some SEO keyword information into the description of the image, as well as to describe what it is for people who can't see the image, or in a case where your image maybe doesn't load. You've probably seen this before. That alt text will show up describing what the image is supposed to be. So the title and the alt text are important pieces of information to add to your image as before and after you upload it. Poor quality, that's a very general term, I know, but that means that you haven't cropped it. So maybe it's a picture of kids in a classroom and there's kids that are smiling and happy, but the picture is so wide that you can't really see them. And so you kind of get lost. So think about the composition of your photograph in terms of quality. Also think about whether it's blurry or not. And then also think about the resolution. So that's the other thing that we see is sometimes the photos are too small and you're trying to blow them up into a bigger space. So if you're starting from an original gigantic resolution photo from an iPhone or a Android phone, that's going to be a high quality. But if you shrink it down and then you don't keep the original and you try to use it in a bigger space, you're going to blow it up and those pixels aren't there in order for that image to fill in and grow to the size that you want it to be. So you want to pay attention to the quality of your image. If you don't have a good quality image, it's better to not use that image. The other thing related to image is logo. So your logo is probably not a photograph. It's probably text or text in some kind of an icon or graphic. And you want to try to use what's called a vector version of that. Oftentimes we see, because a logo may have existed for a while, that you're using a JPEG or a PNG version of a logo, which can look blurry and pixelated. I have a blog post, which I'll share when I send the slides out, about using SVG logos, which is a vector version of your logo. It's a very, very small file size, so it loads quickly, but it also can be seen in different sizes, different screen sizes, without impacting the quality of that graphic. So if you have an Adobe Illustrator or EPS version of your logo, you can turn that into an SVG file and use that for your logo on your website, replacing your PNG. And if you look at them side by side, you'll see the difference. I can see it automatically when I look at a logo on a website because I'm used to seeing it. But if you see them right next to each other, you'll definitely see a difference. The last thing related to images and in terms of mistakes, and if you've worked with me at all or heard me talk about different things during Lunch and Learns, you'll hear that I have not a great affinity for sliders. And that's because I've done a lot of research on them. And I think for schools, there is a case for using a carousel of images to show some diversity, to show different ages that your school might serve. But understanding that people are not necessarily, in most cases, going to stay at the top of your website and watch those pictures scroll through. So if you're trying to communicate a message of, let's say, your 4 or 5 top selling points, and each slide has a different message on it, small school size, great SAT scores, whatever you want to say about your school, if you make a slide for each one of those messages, I can promise you that by slide 3, nobody's going to see those messages. So you're wasting your effort, you're wasting your time, and you're wasting load speed because sliders also slow down your website. You're much better off taking the information from those 4 or 5 or more slides and putting it in content on your homepage that people can scroll down and view at a glance, because you are going to miss an opportunity there. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. All right, let's go on to number 2, the number 2 set of mistakes that we see, and that is out-of-date content. So if you have events and information sessions and open houses at your school, oftentimes you will, of course, promote those on your website. And it's a real pain in the neck to go in and try to remember to take those off when they're over. Same thing if you have news that's old and you don't put new pieces of news up. It's not going to look very good if someone's coming to your site and they see the most recent news from your school is in September. Statistics are another thing that are often missed. You forget to go in and update that maybe your school size, your enrollment size has changed. So you want to keep that accurate. And then staff and faculty is another piece of information that you can sometimes forget to update. You want to make sure that you've added new faculty and taken any new staff or administration faculty off. And then your calendar, making sure that your calendar is up to date. A lot of schools connect their website to Google Calendar and embed that in their website, which works really well if you're using Google Calendar as a school to make sure that your events are up to date. I'm going to give a couple of solutions to the events issue that we see, as well as some news and other information. Some things, these are WordPress specific, but there are 2 plugins that we use, or there are a variety of event specific plugins. We use the events calendar. There's another one we use called Modern Events Calendar. These are plugins for WordPress that allow you to create events on the back end of your site and have them automatically display on the front end of your site. And once the date has passed, those events go away. So they get archived. So they're no longer showing. And if you have no more events coming up, it can show a message saying, no events right now, check back soon, or sign up for our newsletter or something like that. So that makes it really easy. You don't have to go in and do anything after you've entered the event information into your website. It will automatically archive off. Does anybody have a question
about that?
Yeah.
In terms of events, do they also have, is that a clickable link where people can also add that to their calendar?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The events calendar has a way that you can add to Google Calendar or add to iCalendar. That's a feature. Yes. And you can really trick it out. You can get premium pro versions of these events plugins that allow you to sell tickets. During COVID, when you were doing a lot of virtual events, it will allow you to put your Zoom information into the event without having it be publicly displayed. It would only be sent to people who have registered, so that you're protecting yourself that way. So those are some pro add-ons that you can get to the events information. But one of the main benefits of using a plugin like that is that it's very easy to use on the back end, but it also really prevents you from having something that's really old, an event from January showing up in March, which doesn't really look very good to a prospective or a current family, because it seems like you're not paying attention to your website.
Right. And what did the events calendar, did you say, do you know what kind of the pricing looks like for that?
So it's free. The basic version is free, and that will do most of what you need it to do. If you want to sell tickets or do virtual events, you'll want to purchase their premium add-on. But the basic events calendar works for most schools that we work with. So you can try it and see how you like it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, their support isn't great, I'll say, but they have a lot of documentation. Sure. The other plugin that we've used is called Automatically Unpublished WordPress Posts. It's a WordPress expirator plugin, so that if you create, let's say you don't use an events calendar because you don't really have that many events, but you have some information that you only want to be live for a certain amount of time and you don't want to have to remember to go in and take it off, you can have it automatically expire on a date that you set. So that's something else to try. And then to solve the other problems that I talked about in terms of content, having statistics that are out of date, having no recent news, staff and faculty, I would recommend that you just schedule reminders on your own calendar. Just send or send an email to yourself and schedule it. If you use an email scheduler, send it to yourself as a reminder, let's say every quarter, to go in on let's say the first of every quarter, just go in and just make a little note for yourself, check website content. Just go in and look at your main things, your statistics, your news, your faculty, things that can get out of date. Just check on them. You might not need to do anything with it, but it would help you catch it and just pay attention, because I know we do not look at our own websites oftentimes, right? We are busy doing all of the other things that we have to do. So it helps to just schedule a check-in on your website just to look at that content. Okay, number 3 is navigation and page organization. So we see this a lot. First of all, from a user experience on the front end of your website, if your navigation is confusing, if you don't have the top pages that people look for when they come to school websites, which are the About page, the Contact page, your tuition page, oftentimes a frequently asked questions page, faculty and staff, these are pages that parents really look for when we look at the content and we look at analytics of school websites. So you want to make sure that content is easy to find. Don't hide it away. Don't hide your navigation and try to be clever and super creative. You want your information to be really easy to access. So pay a lot of attention to your navigation, have drop downs, and name your pages what they are. Don't try to come up with something really creative there either. If it's your about page, it's better to call it about than to give it some name that people might not understand, but that's what it is, because that's what people are used to seeing. You want it to be familiar for them. Taking your sub pages, this is more of a back end thing, but siloing your sub pages so that you have a parent page and then all of the pages underneath this. I know, Susan, we talked about this on your website where you might have an about page and a faculty page and an FAQs page. And if you have all of those at the same level, so it's, myschool.com or .org/about, myschool.org/FAQs, myschool.org/faculty, that's not the way that it should be, because those pages, faculty and FAQs, probably would work well underneath about. So then it would be /about/faculty, if that makes sense. So you've got a silo of those pages. So that's what's showing in your drop down, shows that those pages are related to each other and they're children of the main top level page. So pay attention to how you're structuring your website, your pages, and how they relate to each other. That also relates to what's happening on the back end of your website. And in WordPress, what happens when you create a new page, it automatically gives it an order of 0. So if you never go into the section on your page, and I'll show you what this looks like in WordPress, if you never go into the section where you can set your order, you're going to have your homepage might be on page 4 if you have 100 pages on your website. And to go find that is a real pain unless you just want to do a search or something. So we like to be very organized and to order our pages, not only have them siloed underneath the parent pages, but also to have them in order of how they are in your navigation. I'll show you an example of that in a minute. And then not removing old pages. So if you have pages that are just test pages or draft pages that you're just trying out as you're building or working on your site, you want to take those pages and you want to remove them. And if you remove them and they've never been live, you can just delete them. If they're pages that are an old version of a page and you've replaced it, you want to use a redirect. I'm not going to go into the details of redirecting right now, but there are plugins that will help you do that. You want to make sure that you're telling Google and telling your website that if somebody has saved the old page link, they're not going to get a 404 page not found error. They will be redirected to the new page that has the information on it that they need. So this is what I mean when I talk about the page ordering. So we can see in WordPress here, we have all of these different pages, and you can see underneath underneath about is the YS. It has a little dash in WordPress that shows me that these are sub pages underneath about. And then if I click on quick edit, when I hover over this page, I can see the order over here. And I can manually change that. If you don't ever do this, all of the pages will be 0 and they'll be in order alphabetically. So that's why it really helps to create this ordering so that it makes it easier for you to find what you need on the back end of your site. It's not a super critical thing. It's not going to impact your user experience or your SEO or any of that. It's just going to make your life easier, and it keeps your website neater on the back end, less stressful. Okay, number 4 is forms. So you may use a CRM, you may use a separate system for most of your contact information, but if you do have some forms on your website, and this goes for your CRM as well, you want to make sure that you have set up your notifications and confirmations properly. So forms can be tricky sometimes if you don't do this. You might have a message that pops up after someone submits the form that was, maybe you copied it from something else. And the message might say, thanks for signing up for our event on Friday, March 1st. But actually, this is the form that they filled out for the event on April 3rd. So they'll be confused. So check the messages that pop up after someone clicks submit on a form. And also check to see what happens when they submit that form. Make sure that the notification is going to somebody who checks their email, right? If the notification is getting sent to someone and nobody's checking that inbox, or it's typed incorrectly, then those messages are going to get lost, and your prospective families are going to be frustrated because they won't hear back. So that's very, very important. And also to test it, because sometimes things can happen. Oftentimes you'll have these forms go into your spam folder and then you won't see them. So you want to be able to flag them that they're not spam. With WordPress, there can sometimes be an issue with emails being sent from a WordPress site to an email that has the same domain. Sometimes WordPress gets a little wonky. So we use a tool. There's one called SendGrid that we use that allows you to bypass the WordPress mail system and ensure that those emails get delivered. So if you're testing it regularly, and this is another thing to put on your calendar when you're doing your quarterly check, is to just go in and test your contact form, test a couple of forms on your website, make sure that the people that are getting those notifications are supposed to get them are actually getting them. And then if you are trying to do some analysis of the interactions on your website, you can set up a thank you page as what happens as the notification instead of just a message that pops up. Instead of that confirmation, you can actually create a thank you page. And if you're doing landing pages specifically, you really want to do this because you want to be able to track traffic to that page. In order to know that you're having whatever kind of success with that landing page, if you create a thank you page that when someone puts their email in, it automatically redirects them to a page that says, thanks for signing up. Well, that becomes a page, a URL that Google will track. And you can see that in your analytics and set that as a goal. So you can say, if you've spent this much on ads, this is usually part of your, of your Google ad campaign, what is being measured. So you can use that as another metric in your campaign. Does anybody have any questions before I go into the last thing? Okay. So the last one is call to action and HTML markup. This is a bit technical to some degree. So the first thing that we see, and these are not necessarily related, I just stuck them together, is that there's no call to action. So if you're at the top of your website, people don't have an apply button, and most schools are really good about this. You want to make sure that you have some kind of button or call to action for people to know what to do, whether it's to sign up for a tour, to apply. And most times, right, for schools like yours, people are not probably going to go right to apply the first time they come to your site, but they may come back. So you want to make that apply button, prominent. From a HTML markup, HTML is the code that is used behind everything on your website. So that's what is used to make your website work. And there is certain things called markup. And you'll see this if you're building a site, you'll often see an opportunity, whether you're in Weebly or any kind of page builder or WordPress, Final Site, any kind of platform that you're on, you have the opportunity to select usually from some type of styling within that content that you're writing. So a paragraph is your basic text, but then you'll probably see heading 1 or H1, heading 2 or H2, heading 3 or H3. And most people think that this is what they use in order to identify what kind, size, color, type of font is showing on the page. So you might think, I want this to be a really big headline, so I'm going to make it a heading 1. And then down here, I want this another big headline, so I'm going to make it a heading 1. And then this one, I'm going to make this a heading 2 because I want it to be a little bit smaller, and this one a heading 3 because I like the way that looks. That is not what these codes are for, what these styles are actually for. They can be related to your style for sure. You will have a style applied for a heading 1, 2, 3, etc. But they really are code that helps Google understand what's the priority of the content on your page. And you should only have one H1 on your page. There's some controversy about this, but I believe you should only have one heading 1, one H1, because that's the title of your page. If you use any kind of tool to audit your site and you have a page that has multiple H1 tags on it, then you'll get an error. So I figure if SEO tools tell me that that's an error, and Google will see it as an error. So the name of your page should be your heading 1. It should be very clear what that page is about. After that, you want to use heading 2 and 3 sparingly and hierarchically. You can go in and specifically style a heading 3 to be larger than a heading 1 if for some reason you want it to look different. It's not really about the look. It's really about the hierarchy of information and how Google understands what's on your page in terms of subheadings. Is that clear to everybody? It's kind of a little bit hard to explain. If you have questions about heading 1 and heading 2, or heading 3, this type of HTML markup, and you'd like me to look at your website and look at a page and kind of walk you through it, I'm happy to do that here in a few minutes when we finish, or you're welcome to reach out to me and I'm happy to, to walk you through that process. I'm just going to talk about a couple of other things really quickly that we see, also mistakes that we see on sites. Broken links. If you just Google broken link checker, you'll find, I talked about this in my talk last month about Google Search Console. If you do a search for broken link checker and put your website in, it will spit out for you a list of any links that are broken, whether they're internal on your website or linking out to, say, you link to an old, newspaper article or something that no longer is live. It will tell you that. It will identify them all so that you can fix those. No sitemaps submitted to Google Search Console. Last month, I talked about Google Search Console and how to use it. Once you've cleaned up your broken links, you want to go and make sure that you have a connection to Google Search Console. And if you have Google Analytics, it's very easy if you don't already have Google Search Console to get it. You want to connect your site to that, and then you want to go in and submit your sitemap. If you use WordPress and you use an SEO tool like Yoast, it makes it very easy to get a link to your sitemap. It's automatically created for you. And that tells Google Search Console to index, crawl your site. And if you make a lot of changes or you rebuild or redo your site, you can submit your new sitemap and it will recrawl your site, and that will help make sure that you don't lose any indexing in Google. Another SEO thing that we see is no custom meta descriptions. I talked about that a few times on some SEO talks. If you want to know more about meta descriptions, I can put a link in the email that I send you after this describing what those are, but it allows you to customize the message that shows up when your website turns up in a Google search. And if you don't customize these, it will pull the first sentence or so on the page, which might not be what you actually want to be showing up in a search result. You might want to customize it or make a call to action or something more compelling than, whatever those first words are on the page. And then inconsistent design layout, that's a very general term, but when we look at schools who come to us for help or reviewing their site, oftentimes we see that over time they have added pages and somebody new or different has designed one page using a page builder and it doesn't match the layout of another page. So a professional website will have consistency. We'll have templates and be consistent throughout the site, not using too many different fonts and colors, and we'll just have a very consistent feel so you know that you're on the same website the whole time. And that's it. So about a half an hour. I thought it might be a little bit faster than that, but I went as fast as I could, hopefully not too fast. And now's an opportunity for you to ask me any questions, whether they're related to this talk or something else. If you want to, give me a task to look at, I'm happy to do that here on the spot. And then if you want to reach out to me, this is my email address. You can use this tool to test your website. You can fill out that form and it'll give you some information about your site there. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
I have one. Okay, so on the images, so there's those image optimizers, and then you're talking about images should be a certain size when they're loaded, and so I guess I'm just wondering what's the difference or what's the importance of those image optimizer plugins, and then making sure that the images are already optimized before you upload them.
Yeah, if you upload your images if you optimize them before you upload them, you will not need an image optimizing plugin for the most part, because you can do it before you put them on the site. That's the ideal way to do it, because the fewer plugins, the better. But if you have a lot of people that are uploading images to your site, there are some plugins like Smush. There's TinyPNG has one. There's some premium. Imagify is another that you can use. They will automatically compress images as they're being loaded to the site. So that can be a benefit. You can also bulk optimize images that are already in your library. So you can use those plugins to do that. Oftentimes they're not needed if you're, if you're good going forward about loading your images already optimized.
Attention,
Oh,
you
okay.
have an incoming message.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Does anyone else have any questions or anything they'd like me to look at? Okay, I always feel like Ferris Bueller on this at this point in the talks. Anyone? So, well, I'm really glad to see so many people listed, even if I can't see your faces. And thank you so much for joining me today. I will be sending out information, a recap of today's talk, as well as information on the next one coming up next month. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Thank you.